The most expensive thing an HVAC tech will ever try to sell you is a $1,000 box that bolts into your ductwork to clean your air. The sales pitch leaves out what's actually inside it. That box works by manufacturing hydrogen peroxide, the same thing that's in the $1 brown bottle under your sink. Once you know that, you start noticing how much of your HVAC bill that dollar bottle already covers. There are 11 of them. Number 5 is the one the whole trade would rather you never worked out. 1. Your bottle is probably dead. This is why half the people who try this swear it doesn't work. Hydrogen peroxide is water with one extra oxygen atom, and that atom is permanently trying to leave. Light, heat, and air all speed it up. A bottle that sat open in a warm cupboard for 8 months has turned into water. People pour it in, nothing happens, they decide the whole thing is a myth. It isn't. Their peroxide expired. Test it. Pour a little on something organic, a grease spot, a bit of mildew, anything living. If it fizzes, it's alive and it works. If it just sits there flat, it's done. That's why it comes in a brown bottle in the first place. The dark plastic slows the light from breaking it down. Buy fresh. Keep the cap tight. Store it somewhere dark and replace it once a year. That fizz is the entire point of everything that follows, so start with a bottle that still has one. 2. The number on the label and why bigger isn't better. The brown bottle is 3%, strong enough to tear apart mold, algae, and bacteria, gentle enough it won't hurt you or your equipment. The internet will tell you to grab the 6% or the food grade 35, because if a little works, more must work better. Don't. Food grade peroxide at 35% is a corrosive chemical that burns skin on contact and can damage the plastic and metal parts inside your system. The 3% bottle is already the right strength, dialed in on purpose to clean without doing damage. Everything in this video uses that same 3% straight from the bottle. No mixing, no diluting. If a fix ever seems slow, that means your peroxide has gone flat and you need a fresher bottle, not a stronger one. 3. The clog that shuts your whole system down in July. Your AC pulls gallons of water a day out of the air, and all of it drains through one white plastic pipe. And inside that pipe, it's dark, damp, and warm, so algae and mold grow a slimy film on the wall. The film grabs dust, and eventually the pipe packs solid. When it blocks, a float switch trips and shuts the whole system off on purpose, so the water doesn't back up into your ceiling. That's worth sitting with for a second. The unit was never broken. The pipe was dirty. Find the T-shaped fitting with a cap on that pipe near your indoor unit. Pull the cap and pour in a cup of your fresh 3%. You'll hear it fizz as it eats the slime and lifts it off the wall. 10 minutes, then flush with warm water. Do that once a month through cooling season, and that shutdown never comes. If it's already blocked and your system is already down, add one step first. Go outside, find where that drain line exits your house, seal a wet-dry vacuum over the end of it, and run it 2 or 3 minutes to pull the plug out from the far end. Then treat the line with peroxide from inside. Clearing this on a service call runs you $145 to $245. The bottle and a vacuum you already own do it for about $1. 4. The money they never bring up because it isn't a repair. Everyone talks about the service call. Nobody mentions what a dirty system costs you every single month it runs. That same biological film grows on your evaporator coil, the indoor coil your air blows across to get cold. Once it coats the fins, it works exactly like a blanket over a cold surface. Your air can't touch the cold metal. Heat transfer drops, and the system just runs longer and longer trying to hit the number on your thermostat. The efficiency loss from a fouled coil generally runs somewhere between 10 and 30%. That's up to a third of your cooling bill every month from May through October, lost to a layer of slime nobody has ever looked at, and it builds faster than you'd think. A typical coil fouls badly enough to choke its own airflow in well under a decade, long before the coil itself is anywhere near worn out. If you can safely reach the coil with the power off at the breaker, mist the fins with 3% and let it drain into the pan below. Spring is the time before the first hot day, so you're not paying that penalty all summer. That wasted efficiency costs you far more over a season than the repair ever would. It just never arrives as a bill with your name on it. 5. The $1,000 machine that makes the same thing as your bottle. At some point, a tech is going to recommend an in-duct air purifier. The most common one is called a ReMe Halo. There are others, the iWave, the air scrubber. It bolts into your ductwork. Here's what the brochure buries in the fine print. It works by generating hydrogen peroxide. The company that makes it calls the process photohydroionization. That's a long way of saying it turns moisture in your air into ionized hydrogen peroxide and blows it through your ducts to kill mold, odors, and bacteria. It is quite literally a machine that manufactures a trace mist of the same molecule sitting in your $1 bottle. That device runs $600 to $1,000 installed, plus a replacement cell every couple years at $150 to $250. Now, I'm going to be fair to it because that matters. The machine does something your bottle can't. It treats the air in your whole house continuously, every room, all day. The bottle only cleans the wet part you pour it into, so it's a real product doing real work. It's also one of the most oversold add-ons in the trade, and that's not me talking, that's the language HVAC companies use about it themselves. Two things they tend to leave out. It doesn't replace your filter, dust and pollen still need something to physically catch them. And it gives off a small amount of ozone as a byproduct. That's below the limit for a room you live in, but worth asking about if anyone in the house has a chest. If a tech quotes you more than $1,000 for the unit by itself, get a second opinion. And just know exactly what you're paying for. You're paying for a machine that makes hydrogen peroxide. And to be straight with you, peroxide is not magic. It kills biological growth, the mold and slime and algae in the wet parts of your system. That's it. It does nothing for a dead capacitor, low refrigerant, or a bad blower motor. And refrigerant work is licensed for a real reason. But that living layer is behind a shocking number of the calls and the upsells you pay for. And the rest of this list is where it hides. 6. The outdoor unit throwing swamp water on itself. Everyone treats the inside of the system and forgets the big metal box outside. On a lot of units, a slinger ring flings collected condensation straight onto the hot outdoor coil to help it cool. And that standing water goes stagnant with the same algae and mold. On top of that, the outdoor coil sits out in leaves, grass clippings, and dust. When it fouls, the compressor has to work harder to dump heat. More strain, more electricity, same cooling. Cut the power at the disconnect. Clear the big debris by hand. Then spray 3% across the coil fins and the base where water pools. Let it fizz and rinse gently with a hose from the inside out. Don't jam a pressure washer at it, you'll bend the fins flat and make it worse. And if some fins are already bent, a cheap fin comb straightens them so air can move through again. A clean outdoor coil keeps the compressor from grinding all summer to dump the same heat. And a strained compressor is the single most expensive part in the whole system to replace. 7. That musty smell for the first minute every time the AC kicks on. It has a name in the trade, they call it dirty sock syndrome. It's not the ducts, it's the coil. It's the same biological film from number 4 growing in the cold, wet fins of your evaporator. And every time the blower starts, it pushes that smell out ahead of the cold air. If you can reach the coil safely with the breaker off, spray it down, let it sit, let it drain into the pan. One honest limit. Peroxide kills the living layer, but it won't dissolve the greasy bonded gunk that also cakes a badly neglected coil that needs a real foaming coil cleaner. And if your coil is behind a sealed panel, leave it shut and treat the pan and drain line underneath, because that's what's feeding the growth anyway. 8. The black spot someone wants to turn into a $900 job. Pull one of your supply registers off the wall or ceiling. The whole thing, not just the grill. Look down into the metal boot behind it. In a humid house, that metal sweats, and where there's moisture and dust, you get black mildew spotting on the inside. Spray it with 3% until it's wet. Give it 10 minutes and wipe it out with a rag on a stick. Wash the grill in the sink at the same time. Now the part that saves you real money. Spotting on a boot you can reach with your hand is a surface you can clean yourself in 5 minutes. It is not proof your entire duct system needs a $900 cleaning. And any company quoting you that off a photo of one vent is running a sales call, not an inspection. 9. The one machine in your house that puts it straight into your lungs. Everything else on this list, the dirty water drains away from you. A humidifier does the opposite. It takes standing water and turns it into a mist you breathe in. So whatever film is growing inside that tank ends up in the air and then in you. Empty it completely. Fill the tank half with 3% and half with water and let it sit 30 minutes. Get the wick housing and the mist nozzle. Rinse it twice and let it air dry before you refill. A cloudy tank with white scale is your signal that it's overdue, because that scale is exactly where the growth anchors. If you've got a whole house humidifier mounted on the furnace, its water panel gets the same treatment, though most of those are built to be swapped once a year rather than cleaned. Same idea for a dehumidifier bucket in the basement. Swirl peroxide up the walls and do the float that tells it when to shut off. 10. Why you can trust a dollar bottle to do a professional job. Hydrogen peroxide isn't some folk remedy somebody made up online. In its vapor form, it's a recognized sterilant. Hospitals use it to decontaminate entire rooms. Food and pharmaceutical plants use it to sanitize their equipment. It's the same chemistry that gets called in to wipe down a hospital room after a serious infection, vaporized and sealed in overnight. And the reason it works everywhere, from an operating theater to your AC drain, is the same. When it touches something living, it oxidizes it, breaks it apart, and then falls apart itself into nothing but water and oxygen. No toxic residue, no film left behind. That $1,000 machine from number 5 is selling you the industrial idea. The brown bottle is the same idea at the strength you actually need, for $1. 11. This one isn't a tip. It's a rule that keeps you safe. Never mix hydrogen peroxide with vinegar. Not in the same container. Not one poured right after the other into a line. Together they form peracetic acid. And that's not an internet scare story. It's stated plainly in the trade press written for HVAC professionals. Peracetic acid is corrosive and it burns your eyes, your lungs, and your skin. If you insist on using both, the guidance is to dose with peroxide. Wait 10 minutes, flush completely with water, and only then use vinegar. That water flush is the entire safety margin. And never use bleach in your system. It eats the cement in your PVC joints and corrodes metal drain pans, which is the exact repair you were trying to avoid in the first place. One bottle, 3%. Nothing mixed in. That's the whole method. So here's the thread through all 11. Peroxide doesn't fix machines. It kills the living layer that makes machines look broken and run expensive in every wet part of your system. It's the same thing a $1,000 box manufactures and the same thing hospitals sterilize with. Your tech knows all of it. He just gets paid by the visit and by the upsell, and a fresh $1 bottle takes a whole column off his invoice. Do the coil, the pan, and the line on the first dry Saturday of the month, and you keep that money.